All right. Um, Welcome to the Apprentice Worldwide Global Internship Program for 2023. It's actually been, I think it's the fourth year that we do this. And I'm always excited to meet all these young and up and coming execs that are going to rule the world in a positive light, of course, and make a big difference. And just so you know, I am the founder and chief volunteer for Apprentice Worldwide. And I started Apprentice Worldwide in 2014 to help young professionals that were graduating college kind of learn the ropes on how to deal with the real world. And then a couple of years into it, I realized that the same people never wanted to leave because they had more issues as they started in the real world than when they were in college. So therefore, we continued with associates, and now 90% of the people that are part of Apprentice Worldwide are associates. So graduated college and are still trying to make it in their own dreams and in their aspirations. So I'm very excited to have this group, because this group has been with me for the past 6 weeks this summer, and we've had phenomenal time. We've had a lot of fun. We've learned a lot of things from other executives. We learned from Luis how to be better at handling our finances. We learned from Flor about finding your uniqueness. We learned from Mo about artificial intelligence, and he brought up some great points on how to use prompting adequately to help us get more organized and save time. We also had Carol, and Carol spoke about leadership, but she started speaking, or she focused on how do we lead ourselves first, and then how to lead by example, and she used some great examples as well. And then last week we had what do we have last week? I forgot because I was in Mexico. Oh, we had Uriel that spoke about how to adapt to change, and you probably heard from him great stories about what transpired in his career, and he wanted to go in one direction but ended up in another totally different, right? He was a master chef, and then he ended up in banking, and now an entrepreneur, and all these things that happened in his career. And I get a chance to finish this up, which I'm very happy, because I'm going to bring in some of these, all of these concepts together. And at the same time, I want to hear from you what you learn throughout the process. And then I'll share a little secret with you guys about what's next. Okay. Because obviously, you're probably learned some things that change your perspective and that allowed you to rethink maybe what your business strategy is. So I want to make sure that you know what we can do together to help you accomplish these things. Okay. So today we're gonna talk about office politics, right? And just by show of hands, have you ever dealt with office politics at all? Raise your hand if you have. So two people. Okay. Yes, Monica, I know. uh, by the way, Monica and I met when I was in my 20s, just like you guys. And, we've had a long relationship, 20 some years as friends, and we've helped each other out throughout our career. But sometimes we wish we had mentors like us to help us, because we didn't know what we were doing in general, right? And we you have to learn the hard way. So I'm always, one lesson that I learned in my household is that my brother Juan Carlos, which I love dearly, and he has a wonderful story of his own. He screwed up a lot, and then that allowed me to learn a lot from him and not to make the same mistakes. And that's probably a blessing in disguise, no? To have the opportunity to learn from others that are making mistakes, because it is very painful and it's going to happen, but it's very painful when they happen to you, you know? So we're trying to not eliminate, but mitigate, right? And that's important. It's like what I tell people about, you know, parenting sometimes is that we just want to be bumpers to make sure that people don't go off the canal, right? They might not hit strikes all the time. They might even lose in the little corner, but truly, we don't want you to fall in the canal and be a complete failure, no? And that's something that I learned with time, that I rather surround myself with bumpers, and it's something that I hope you guys do as well. So when I talk about office politics, is something that I hated with a passion. The thing that I hated the most was politics, because I found them to be dirty. I found them to be just despicable. And when it comes to office politics, when I'm talking about, and I'll give you some examples, is things that happen around you that you have supposedly you have no control over, right? So in college, maybe you don't experience that much, because you just go to the class, take a course, take a test. You do good in a test, bravo, you get a grade, okay? And maybe your interaction is with one or two professors, or sometimes you don't even have an interaction with your professor. It's all online, and you do that. But when you start dealing with more than one person, then you quickly realize that people have their own agenda. And therefore, you know, as the faster that we realize how, you know, how to handle, I'm not going to say how to handle other people's agenda, but how to understand how that agenda affects you, right? Regardless of what you do, it's important. So to put it into context, so I was the president of Alpha Kappa Psi in my chapter at the University of Miami. And I was also a Master of Rituals, VPM, and then I was the VP of Alumni Relations. So every position had a different activity that I had to do. But the one where I realized that I needed to do with finesse was when I became president, right? Because when I was VP of membership, I had my agenda. My agenda was to recruit a bunch of people. Or when I was a Master of Rituals, I was just doing events for people to participate. Or when I was doing the alumni relations, I was just recruiting alumni. But when I became the president, I realized that I had to deal with everyone's agenda and treat them equally. And that's so hard, because think about it. Everybody has their own agenda. So therefore, you know, you're trying to manage it as best you can. Okay. Same thing happens. And Macy knows, because I am the president of a trade association. So I'm talking about almost 30 years later, after I graduated college, I'm still dealing with other people's agenda. And therefore, you know, it's very difficult, because just to give you an example, and it happens all the time, I have a board member that wants to do things in Canada, another one that wants to do increase the membership of bankers, another one that wants to do fintech events, right? And my position before I became the president was I handled a lot of Latin America, and then I became the fintech liaison for that association, and then I became the president. So of course, you know, I had my own agenda. I wanted to promote myself, and I wanted to focus on the things that I cared about, so Latin America, and also fintech technology. But now, as a leader, I have to look at things and go, okay, if I take one side over the other, I'm going to create chaos that is unnecessary. And therefore, I cannot move my own agenda forward, right? Because everybody is going to be against me, or at least the other 10, 12 people that I disregarded because I'm giving attention to only one side of the equation. And my agenda is very simple. My agenda is, how do I move this organization forward? How do I make it more organized, a force to be reckoned with, a more recognized brand in the market, while everybody else worries about doing their own little thing? I care about the overall organization and how will it impact people in the future. And by the way, in difference from Apprentice Worldwide, where I am in charge, right? The other one, 12 people are on the board. These are top banking executives, senior executives. So imagine they're people just like me or like Monica. They're experienced executives. All of them are smart. All of them are successful or have been successful in their own world. So anything that I say that goes against what they're doing is discrediting their reputation. How do you think they will feel, right? If I start telling them something, like if I tell Monica, you know what? Yeah, I understand that you want to put everything in fixed income, but I don't care about that. I'm gonna put my money in crypto, and forget about what you told me, okay? I think your advice is just horrible, and I think I'm so sorry. I'm gonna take my money. So you see her smiling, but inside she's gonna be like, that motherfucker, that ass, beep. So you can tell. It's like any of you, like if I tell you, Johan, your agenda sucks, right? You want to take your CPA, that sucks. Or Sebastian, you know what? Your business idea sucks, right? Or Lorena, your idea of following your dream and being successful in the airline industry is a piece of crap, right? That is how touchy these things can be. And that is why it's so important how you handle yourself in organizations where there's more than two people, okay? And let's talk about how you do it, okay? Ready? So let's start by looking at things. There's a book by John Maxwell that John Maxwell is one of my favorite authors, by the way. Anything that has to do with leadership, he's a great speaker. By the way, Stephen Law, who is one of our mentors at Apprentice in Tampa, works for the Maxwell organization. But he talks about the 360-degree leader. And by the way, I hated office politics all the way until my 30s, until one of my bosses, JP Cuevas, which was my boss for 10 years, when I was at Bank of America, told me, you know what, Hernan, you know what your problem is? That you are doing nothing about it. You just have your own mindset and you're doing nothing about it. And another boss friend of mine, Joe Longobardi, told me, Hernan, you're too Latin. It was kind of like shocked me. Boy, I would have sued him at this stage, but at that time there wasn't much about diversity and inclusion in the conversations. But when he told me that, I took it to heart, and what he told me was, you get too emotional. And gringos, he told me like that, gringos, they are more like Teflon. And I go, what do you mean, Joe? What do you mean? And he goes, well, just think about Teflon. Teflon, things get thrown at you and it slides, right? So you'll see top executives, They deal with each other, they battle it out, and then they let it go, and then they're in happy hour together drinking, and I'm like, I want to kill that jerk. You know, if that happens to me, because he is against my agenda, right? So this book was the first one that I read after I had after I analyzed myself to understand that office politics is nothing more than relationship building inside your organization. So what are the things that we need to do? Which this book is phenomenal. It talks about what do you do around you, right? So the first thing is um, just who do you have up, right? Up. And one of the things that you have is your manager, your manager's manager, and everybody that they report to, particularly in large organizations. So how do you handle that? How do you handle your boss's boss? Let me ask. Like if you had an issue and you had to ask for advice from your boss's boss, will you freeze and not know if it's appropriate? How would you handle dealing with your boss's boss for anything? Carla. Yes.
Yeah, because there's two. Well, I've been in this situation before where I've had to text or, contact my boss's boss. And obviously there's someone of a much higher position than me. So um, obviously just be respectful and get uh, you know, my opinion out, and try to be heard. Um, like for example, when I was in Apprentice Worldwide, my direct boss was Stephanie, but you were Stephanie's boss, so you were my boss's boss. But I feel like I while I was there, I tried to build a really good relationship with you so that I had the confidence enough to bring out a problem to you. And yeah, I think that's how I would do it. I hope that was good. I don't know.
I think it was good. I think it was good. So it's a great example, by the way. And you didn't have to do much talking because I saw your work, right? So this is important because when you feel that people are not looking at what you do, your actions are more important. So that's an advice that I would give to everybody here is don't worry so much about what you're going to say. Worry about what you do that people recognize. So let me give you some tips. For example, I told you, the older people get, the pickier they get, right? So, being on time, being prepared, being organized, coming up with a solution before you go to the meeting or a suggestion, you know, uh, things that impress people is how you're utilizing your gray matter ahead of time, not just sitting down and just expecting everybody else to solve the issue. They want a contributor. So I'm gonna use Carla's example, but Carla, you took our Apprentice Worldwide Academy to the next level, right? Like I asked for one in the scale of 1 to 10, and you gave me 11. No, and therefore, you don't have to say much. I'm just looking at it, right? I just know that while people were just posting something in social media, you would embrace it. You took every single book. I saw it because you would download it from the academy, and I would see when you would download it. I saw that you used the material that we had and explained to people the material ahead of time. It's just amazing. It just shows the type of person that you are. And that's really what matters, huh? because what matters is not so much what you know, because I know that you guys are going to know a little less than me about certain things, okay? But it doesn't really matter, because what matters is, you, who you are, right? And this is important when you deal with your bosses, because guess what? And Monica and I know these people get promoted, and these people get promoted. Guess who the first people that they call? You, right? You are the ones that they want around. You are the ones that they keep when they're slicing people in the organization. Guess who are the ones that stay? The ones that are going above and beyond the call of duty, the ones that are always bringing ideas, the ones that are, yeah, I'm remote, but you know what? I'm going to show up on Tuesday because I wanted to see Juanito or Jack. It's just that extra thing that makes a major difference. So how did I deal with my bosses? Well, the first thing is not to be afraid, right? Not to be afraid. These people are human beings like you. You might get a little intimidated because they're older, but the reality is you don't have to be afraid if you're prepared and if you're professional, right? If you don't know what they're talking about, man, Mr. Jones, I'll be honest with you. You asked for this, and this, and I worked on this, and I worked on this, but this one I didn't get. I'm coming over here to let you know that I don't know, and I know you gave me the deadline for Friday. I really struggling a little bit with this. Can you help me? You know how much I respect that in people? Because if the deadline is Friday and you do not deliver on the deadline, right? Imagine these are large corporations. The larger they get, you're relying on other people to do the work so that you can get the work done. That's why they give you a deadline, right? So a deadline really means a dead/line. It means if you do it by the deadline, it is the deadline, meaning there's no way to fix your mistake because you already completed it. So my advice in dealing with big bosses is the deadline is never the deadline. The deadline is 2 days before in your mind, because what you want is to get feedback from your bosses. Didn't fail. Every time that I use this tactic, my bosses would commend me. Okay. So, but if something is done on Friday, I would come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and I would go, sir, this is what you requested. I don't know if it's perfect. I really don't know if you feel that it's okay, but I wanted to give it to you ahead of time to see if I need to fix anything. 9 times out of 10, they would tell me, Hernan, phenomenal. I appreciate it. No, I'll take it from here, and they would take it and give it to somebody else to put pretty pictures. But what they wanted was my brain power, because they didn't want to spend time doing X work, right? In my case, I am a trade finance expert. So therefore, they were looking for my trade finance expertise. They didn't want to go and talk about credit cards because they had a credit card person. Or in the case of Monica, they didn't want to talk about to the person that handles annuities. They wanted to talk to the person that knows about bonds, right? And that's a different product. So therefore, they would go to one for annuities, another one for bonds, another one for stocks, right? Each one of the product specialists, they needed that information so that they could present to the decision makers that were making major investments with $100 million portfolios. So if you fail to deliver on your side, then you bring it on Friday when it's the deadline. They have no way to fix it. You're dead. You're toast. And you know what happens when you're toast? They don't trust you anymore. So they might forgive you the first time. They definitely may give you a break the second time, but the third time, it's a Hail Mary. Meaning, if you are continually screwing up, then you need some major mind shifting, or you will be out of a job eventually, right? And then either you have to find yourself a job, or you're going to be out of a job. And that's what you want to avoid. And that's why this office politics, which really is relationship building, is so important. No. The other thing is, so we talked about a little bit about how to deal with the bosses. No? Let's talk about how to deal with your fellow employees, so your peers. No. So one of the tendencies that we have is that one of the things that happens is you get excited when you get people that are your age, right? Very excited. So excited that you start becoming friends with these people. So friendly that some things might get out of line, right? Like you might start going to drinks a little more than you should, or go to lunches with a single woman too often, or you see where I'm going here, right? Where this is something that I learned with many of my friends that got divorced. Okay, this is how tough it is, and some of them got demoted and passed by promotions because they were mixing their personal lives with their work lives. And it is a natural thing to build relationships. It's just the way that you handle it, right? With respect, love, kindness, fairness, right? Openness, and a lot of trust, respect. No. So one thing that used to happen a lot when I started in the banking industry is, inappropriate advances to women. So that would happen a lot, and I would be a witness to a lot of that. And I even to the point that my first job, I had to leave because their values did not align with my beliefs, right? And again, office politics from the beginning, brutal, because how do you handle this? You're thrown in a situation where you're thinking you're going to be successful, and all of a sudden you see that your boss is sleeping with the secretary of X. And then what do you do, right? And that's inevitable. Human relationships is something that we cannot necessarily control, but are you an active part of this? I hope that you know and that you understand, especially with some HR experts here, that you cannot do that, right? You cannot do that, particularly nowadays. When you have a relationship, it is all about respect, mutual respect, and understanding. And if you have any issues, then you just voice it to your manager, and have a discussion. It's tough, but this is when the difference between little kids and adults. What would we do as little kids? Mommy, 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 right? There's no mommy when you graduate college. And maybe mommy will be around the first couple of years, but trust me, when you're 25, there's no mommy. Okay? So what does that mean? You have to handle it on your own. And how do you handle it? You handle it first instant professionally, right? With tact, professionally, you hold back, you ask for advice from your mentors, you got to deal with it. Then you might go to your boss. And then the third is, if it's a brutal situation, you go to HR. Just know that HR is always there to protect the company first, right? So it's a tough situation, but these are things that are going to happen. Oh, another one of our mentors. I love it. Okay, so I talked about dealing with your boss, dealing with your peers, right? It's important that you maintain a level of professionalism even with your peers. Okay, nobody cares about what you do on your weekends. So let me repeat that. Nobody cares what you do in the weekend. What does that mean? That even if you feel like saying it, just hold it to yourself. Even if you had a blast, smoking weed, at the beach in Boquerón, you know, or in wherever, nobody cares about your weekend adventures, particularly not in the place where you're getting paid. And whoever says, whoever, that doesn't mean you can't have a cordial relationship with one or two people. But it's just sometimes the biggest mistake that I see young people, and I did it myself, is I talk too much about things that have nothing to do with work, right? And one of the things that we need to learn is to shut up. and for a guy like me that talks a lot, shutting up is very hard. And imagine in my 20s, I didn't have Instagram or social media and all this stuff. What is this also important? When I say that they don't care about what you do in the weekends, I'm serious. Not even what you post in social media. Do not, I repeat, do not get the people that work with you in your social media. Do not, because they're your friends today. The next day, if they're your enemies, what is the first thing that they're going to do? They're going to go like this. Avi, you remember when you were smoking weed? Mira. Hey, go to your boss. Mira. Okay? So that is why it's so important that you manage relationships. And again, I'm talking about office politics. It's all about managing relationships, right? Because every step that you do throughout the organization is going to impact you regardless. So it must, if you want it to impact you, you want it to impact you positively, then you need to have a proactive role at building relationships positive, ethically, right? So talk about your up, I'm talking about the sideways, and then let me talk about handling people that you manage. One thing that I learned, and I learned it through young adult ministry and through also taking some Virtus courses that they make you take, is that when you're having, particularly when you're having a dynamic with somebody, now it's more confusing. That's why you got to be a little more even more careful, more respectful. Is when you have relationships of people that report to you, right? You might have an affinity to that person because you have things in common. Let's say and Macy and I. So Macy likes international business, right? She doesn't like accounting or other stuff. She likes international business. So of course, her and I are gonna have an affinity. Plus, if she's responsible, right? If she's attentive, all these things are great affinity. But affinity does not mean taking something to a next level. And how do you avoid that? So here's something that I learned, okay? How many people here, by a show of hands, the ones that are here, have been in situations where there's a gray area? Something where you don't know if it's right or you don't know if it's wrong. Raise your hand. I think that's 100% of you, right? So guess what happens when there's white and there's dark, right? So gray areas in between. This is what I do. This is what I do. Let me show you. Okay, this is what I do. You see what I do? So let me say it in words. Okay. So when you are in it, when you see a gray area and it's happening to you, your first instinct is to shed light on the situation, clear it. So, for example, and I'll give you one example. There's many. If you don't know what's going on and something is shady, you ask more questions. Okay. If something you feel is inappropriate, but it's not that clear, you keep asking questions, or you bring somebody to bring your perspective. And I call Abby, and Abby, what do you think about this? This guy's doing this and that. If he's my friend, he's gonna tell me, you know what? Watch out, Hernan. That guy is trying to do this and that. Okay. But let's say that any of you has a relationship with your boss that has an affinity. So you know what you do? You put clarity on the situation. So one of the things that I learned is, for example, I don't know how many, probably 100 women that I've mentored, right, and that I continue to mentor, and 100 guys, right? But with the guys, I don't have. It's never gonna come up that issue, no. But with the women, one of the things that you have to learn is, what are the boundaries? And by the way, I'm going to share a book with you guys about setting boundaries. Okay, because and I think I have it in the Apprentice Academy. Remind me to share it with you later. Boundaries are the light. The light that you saw that shines is the boundary. You don't cross that boundary. For example, whenever I had a discussion with a women colleague, I would never close my door, right? Or I would have the meeting outside in the open. I would never go alone to lunch with a subordinate. Women, for sure, never. I always bring a third person. Okay. So these are practices that you need to handle, because just think about it. If you're sitting in a table and both of you are having lunch, and there's only two of you, and you have an affinity for each other, and you don't shine light, you start pouring tequila, you're going in a dark direction. And that confuses relationships. And that's what you don't want. You want to have clear relationships, right? So, for example, at Apprentice Worldwide, sorry to tell you, none of you are nothing. I have some of my best friends that are mentors, but the rest of you might be my friends, but I am your mentor. Okay? This is what I put a logo that says Apprentice Worldwide. If anybody has any doubt, they can come to me. Here's my wife. She supports my activity. She knows exactly what I'm doing. There's no gray area. So in your work, my biggest advice when you deal with people that are under you, and even inside of you as well, is shed light into the situation. By the way, I had notes for today. I didn't even talk about the things that I wrote, but it's just some of the things, and we don't have that much time. We can talk forever about these things. But I want to ask you if you have any questions or any situation that you might have been involved with that involve office politics or dynamics that were negative in your clubs or associations. Any example that you want to bring in, more than welcome. If you want, raise your hand and I'll call on you. Anything you want to share? Monica, anything you want to share?
Yes. So I remember that you brought up the fact that one of our first meetings that we organized, the photo that you were referring to at the very beginning, we had a specific similar conversation of office politics for women specifically. So how to manage some of the situations that you mentioned as a woman, and being a woman in finance 20 years ago, at an early age, it was difficult to somewhat mitigate, as you mentioned, some of those advances that people would do that obviously today is completely inappropriate and easier to manage. But back then, it was hard to walk through. And so how will you walk through yourself through out of those situations? And you mentioned very good points as, your own. You wouldn't say, I'm uncomfortable, I'm leaving, or, I have to get up early, I have work to do, or I will go as far as tell senior people in my company that I couldn't go to the lunch meeting, or invite someone else, because you didn't want to create that shadow as a woman, specifically in finance, not even just, for you speaking as a man, but as a woman in general, it was even harder, because if we were 20 girls in a trading floor or 20 women in a trading floor of about 300 people, so you had to even farther more protect your own integrity. And when you talk about limits and boundaries, I think it's super important that you know as an individual, and this could go from a religious perspective or even a spiritual perspective, or even just as an individual, what are your limits, and just stand by those limits, because when you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what to do, or where you perhaps don't know where to get that light from, or the gray area, as you mentioned, what would be your best case scenario? What is your heart telling you? Follow your instinct, follow your gut, and if it's something telling you this does not seem right to me, walk away. Not everything is going to be a business opportunity. Not every conversation is going to be something that is going to advance your business or is going to help you develop something more. Perhaps you could schedule a coffee later if you're at a drink event and scenario, especially for ladies. If you're in a happy hour and they're like, okay, let's grab another drink and then talk about your idea. Oh, well, maybe tomorrow we can just grab a coffee, or at a different time so I can express my ideas a bit more freely or with more time. Just know how to manage yourself and how to mitigate those gray areas, so that you're better prepared on how to handle those situations. As Hernan mentioned, we were together at an early age in banking, and we didn't know how to handle this. And we were in conferences that will go on to 1 a.m, right, Hernan? There were events where there were drinking and there were people partying, and at one point you just have to put boundaries for yourself as an individual and says, no, this is where my individual as an employee or as a person stops, and I need to just limit myself to that. You don't have to go the extra happy hour or the extra drink or the extra uncomfortable meeting. If it's making you uncomfortable already, that's definitely for me a boundary. That's a no. That's let's do it later. Let's do it over the phone. Now we have even more resources. We have Zoom. We have FaceTime. We have many other ways that we can discuss all those ideas with mentors or superiors or even peers, where you don't have to be in a one-on-one uncomfortable situation. So mitigating that, I think it was a great point. It's very important.
Yeah, and yeah, so we can share many stories. I think the bottom line where you mentioned it is if there's respect, right, and you see it and you feel it, then you have a good positive feeling. Then you can have a relationship with these people, and they can become your friends on and off. But respect is the core of the relationship. Otherwise, it becomes a free for all, and you are in a path of destruction, right? And not only are you affecting your paycheck, but you affect your reputation. That can impact your life for years. I have friends of mine that did inappropriate things in their 20s. They can't get jobs in banking because they always bring it up. That the guy stole money from whoever by giving them an inappropriate loan, right? And it's 30 years later, and they still say the same things. Or I have another conversation with another guy. No, remember Felipe? He slept around the secretary, and look where he's in. He's probably sleeping with the other one. Maybe the guy changed his life. Maybe the guy had a conversion. Maybe the guy, the Holy Spirit came and changed him. I don't know, and that can happen. But it's so hard to fix these things that it's better to know ahead of time to restrain rather than go all out and say the heck with it. So that's why we're bringing these points. So thank you, Monica. Sebastian. No, Pozo, he had his hand up.
Yeah, so I don't know if we were still talking about the examples, and this is not really like a example as to what you were talking about, but I do feel like it's kind of falls in between office politics, where in my last job I was working at my leasing office in my apartment, and I would try to help people as much as I can, but then my manager would be like, "Oh, if you're on the phone for more than 15 minutes with one person, then like you have to hang up because you can't be, we have to have other people that we need to talk to." But these people end up calling because people talk to them for 15 minutes, don't end up actually fixing the issue, and then they have to call multiple times. Where like I figured it would be smart if I would just actually help this person out, figure out the issue, and then once that's completed, then we can move on to the next person and be able to help more people instead of just telling them, "Oh yeah, we'll see what we can do. Give us an email or something like that," and then nothing actually ever gets done.
So, the first and second time, I always err to the side of the boss. Therefore, if somebody, if your boss is telling you something and it's something that it's important to him or her, as long as it's not breaking a rule, right? But it's something that it's important to them, and something is more important to you than to that person, then you have to have that dialogue. You have to, write it down and remember to have that dialogue. Catch him at 4:00 or at 5:00 and say, "Hey, Juanito, I have to talk to you because we talked about this, and it really impacted me a little bit because I wanted to make a change or a difference. What do you think about this? Can we talk about it?" Most likely, if it's a good person, you're gonna say yes, and then you have a conversation. I think that's important. The relationship is what matters the most. The relationship at work, and again, the relationship with respect, because these people, you don't know what's going to happen in the next. And sometimes the attitude of "I don't care because I'm never going to see this person again," it always plays to a disadvantage. There are not many people that I literally discarded early in my career in life, came back and became one of my bosses, for example. So I'll share this story with you. I worked at Wachovia, okay, which was First Union, and then Wachovia later became Wells Fargo. My boss at First Union was the head of trade finance for First Union. They merged with a bank called Core States. So the head of trade finance for Core States and the head of trade finance for First Union were fighting for the same position. But they took it to the next level. They met in the bathroom and started punching each other. And some of our colleagues put them apart, and then it became this thing that happened, right? Guess what? So my boss, that the guy from Core States, gets fired, but the guy that reported to that guy becomes the head of structured trade for that bank. My boss eventually gets fired, and then I am handling one of the trade product lines, but I was late 20s, and this guy was mid 30s, late 30s. So, and my boss at this side of the equation for First Union was a managing director, and I was a vice president, and this guy was a director. So in banking, you have director, vice president, director, and managing director. Okay, at least in my bank. Guess what? The guy that was my boss told me, okay, from now on, you're gonna report to the other guy. He can never forgive or forget the fact that my boss attacked his mentor, and he took it up on me, right? And what happened was, he didn't give me a bonus my last year, and I ended up leaving because I knew that it was inevitable. There was no way to change his mind that I was a faithful, loyal employee, even if I tried. You know? Well, again, I left. I left, went to a bank called Bladex. So this is Wachovia. I go to Bladex. In Bladex, I end up moving to Panama because they closed the Miami office. I go from Panama, living in Panama. My wife didn't want to go to Panama, so I had to find a job immediately, go back to Miami. Ended up back in Miami at a bank called Commerce Bank. Guess who the guy so I started reporting to Joe Longobardi. They brought in a head of international. It was the guy that fought with my ex-boss at First Union. He was the head of the bank. So I was an officer. When he saw me, he demoted me to become an analyst, a credit analyst, a credit underwriter. And then I had to prove myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to do everything in my power to gain his trust. I knew he loved golf. I started taking golf lessons. I was talking to him about golf all the time. He got, he gave me a chance to play with him at one time. And during the golf outing, I told him how I felt, that I respected him, that I'm so sorry that thing happened, that I had nothing to do with it, right? Guess what happened? Later on, he ended up promoting me. At some point, he had his conversation with the other guy, who was my boss that didn't give me the bonus. 10 years later, I get a job at Wells Fargo. So 2017, I leave. I go to an insurance company in 2018. I joined the company. 6 months later, my ex-boss becomes my boss, joins my company. So now, at that time I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 40s, late 40s. I told the guy, listen, I don't know what happened in the past. I wasn't part of it, but we can't have this relationship. I'm telling you right now that this is not going to play out the same way. If you want me to leave right now, I can leave, but I don't want to have any issues with you. Tell me. And he said, you know what? I realized because this guy that you took out to golf, basically his mentor, said that I was a cool guy and that he should have trusted me a little more. So there's no way of knowing where these angles are going to take. Just know that you have to rely on your ethical behavior, right? And to always build a positive relationship, to try to avoid conflict, not avoid conflict, try to avoid creating conflict, because you're never going to avoid conflict completely, right? But if you're the one creating it, you're best to hold back and just think about, bring a mentor. And we're going to talk about this mentoring thing at closing, because I want to bring this up, and it might take a little longer, but don't leave because I have a surprise for you. Okay, Lorena. And then
okay.
You have a question.
We're talking about ethics, and then you said about examples, and then I remember when I worked at Azul Airlines in Brazil, here in Brazil, because I'm in Brazil right now. I had a boss, like they work where we worked in the airport, where like maintenance airport, so like 95% are men in a work environment. And I remember I had a boss which is a woman, and she was very wise. She's very wise, and she was teaching me how to set boundaries, but be respectful. And every time she would tell me, if they ask for something personal, your number, something, pass on the company's contact or like my contact, the companies, so they can reach out in a, because like she told me that the company's contact was like monitored, so like if anything they would monitor it. And as you're saying, that's really important to have someone to mentor you and to teach you how to like behavior in like work environment. And I'm really glad that she did so. And sometimes she was harsh with me, but that taught me a lot. And like as you're saying, like that's my example.
Hernan, if I can just say one word.
Yes.
Lorena, I think you had a great mentor, a woman mentor at the time, because the advices that she gave you were the advices that I would give any woman right now. Just make sure that you channel all those connections through work, because as we know, most of our work emails or phones were monitored, especially for you and I that work in finance and in banking. We usually would have an extra phone line with a different phone number, so they wouldn't have our direct or personal contact, because for us, it was more by law. For me, it was for FINRA. They needed to monitor my communications, make sure that we were not doing anything illicit. But I just want to mention that you had a great mentor, and I think she gave you fantastic advice.
By the way, you are going to have more mentors that are going to give you more advice, hopefully. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Saki, you have a question? Great comment, Lorena.
Yeah, I had a quick question. I was just going to touch back to when you discussed the idea about drawing a line with your coworkers regarding your personal life and your professional life. So my question is basically, when it comes to bringing people onto a team, right? If that's terms of hiring or allocating to a certain group, how do you draw that line? So like personally, going into this next semester of university, there are some people that I know personally that would be interested in joining my project, or maybe down the road would be interested. But where do I draw that line in terms of, figuring out whether, my personal relationship with them is beneficial or sabotaging to where I'm looking to go professionally?
Great question. So, by the way, we have Luis as well, another one of our mentors. So I just want to address this directly. So what do I look for my partners? I look for skills and heart, right? Skills and heart. So how do you measure skills? Easy, right? If the person's organized and you're looking for an organized person, if you're looking for fundraising skills and you have a person that is very motivated, marketing savvy, very creative, right? That's pretty easy. The second one is heart. So the behaviors that I look for in people that I associate myself with is love and respect. So respect is okay. One thing is, we all respect each other, or we're not here. I'm not sending you a text, Saki, you suck. No, that's not what we do here. We respect each other by having a cordial professional relationship, and as a mentor. But the extra thing is, for me, is again, and sometimes when there are people that are close to me, I can see what they do in their weekend, right? So if they have a big heart for serving or for a cause, even if it's not something that you particularly are completely mad about. Like, for example, you know, Monica and I bring Monica because it's the one that I know the longest. So Monica and I have a common love and passion for helping people that suffer from breast cancer, because things that happen in our lives, and people that we met along the way suffer from these illnesses, and she takes of her free time to, you know, do these things, which I think is very commendable. And we share that common passion for helping people that suffer. And therefore, you know what? I think she's pretty cool. You know, this is a person that I like. She has the skill set, she has the heart. Definitely people that I want to be with, or that I want in my close circle. People that talk a lot, and you know, I'm not impressed with talkers. I'm impressed with people that act. So that's probably, my advice. I don't know, Luis, what do you think?
Hernan, I think you hit it right on the head of the nail, man. It's great. Was it Sebastian that just asked you that question,
Saki.
or was it just? I think that the kids nowadays are starting to realize some of these things, and like the young lady that spoke before, that she had her office, boss tell her, and it's great that it came from a woman to have that perspective. Um, I really believe in that too. I believe that if we're able to set our boundaries in a respectful way, you never have to insult anyone. It's all about respect. Because if we want to respect someone and we want to get our point across, it has to be a clear and conscious, precise. Because you'd be surprised how much you can change the lives of people that don't realize, and this might sound bad, might not realize they're bullies, right? We're going to see that a lot in the workforce, especially for the younger kids, that these older gentlemen or women, they think that they know it all, and they've just been brought up like that in the workforce, right? Now, I'd like to just add one more thing, and I think that it's right down the alley you're talking about, Hernan. There's some spiritual retreat. I don't think I've spoken to you, Hernan, about it, but we'll talk about it one day. And it showed me, that a circle is the best place to be in, right? Because it's smooth, everything flows, and when you're in integrity yourself, you use your voice to express positive manner. And unfortunately, we've all been taught to be in a triangle, right? And the triangle has three sides, and the three sides are the persecutor, the victim, and the persecutor, the victim, and there's one more, persecutor, victim, and persecutor, victim. There's one more, right? But we have to
Accuser,
learn, like,
maybe?
as Hernan, right? So what I'm trying to get at is what Hernan is saying, right? When you're a victim, you take everything personal, and then you don't talk to anyone about it, and then all you do is you create different possibilities, right? But it's like Anthony Robbins says, he goes, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, and a courageous man dies one. That includes women, right? That's how he says it. But um, I can't remember the third one. But anyways, if you learn to be in a circle with yourself, right, where you're constantly, if something bothers you, you can tell them, listen, you told me this and I felt like this, and it just made me feel in a situation that I was at before, and that's how it made me feel. I would appreciate it if you don't do that, because it makes me feel less than, right? And I think that sometimes when you're open like that, you're not just letting that bad energy leave yourself and lets you be more clear than keeping it inside and just rethinking, man, I should have said this, I should have said that, I should have done this. No, you don't want to be there. Just listen, maybe at the moment you don't want to explode, but you can come back later, like Hernan says, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and talk to him and say, look, this is what happened and this is how I felt. And I promise I'll leave you with that, because if not, Hernan doesn't like people that talk too much. But anyways,
I do.
um,
I do love people that talk too much.
I
I just
know, man.
lower the volume.
Yeah, but man,
So
you guys.
it's a great point that you bring, and I think, guys, it's all about trust, right? Trust is the key component in every relationship, and the same thing happens in your work. So what you're trying to do is build trust. By the way, The Speed of Trust, one of my favorite books of all time, is one that you guys should read. That I'll also send you a free copy because I have it in my phone. Okay, I'll send you a free copy. It just shows how the most of the CEOs of companies, guess what they were? They had a great mentor in the organization, and they built credibility, and they worked the office politics very carefully and with grace and with ethics, right? They handle it that way. And then everybody in the organization kind of continue to prop up these people, because that's what happens. Good people rise by themselves, no, just by your actions, and they can also be pushed down by their actions as well. So every step that you take is all about building trust with your bosses, no, and the bosses above you. Do the best work that you can, like Carla did, right? That showed beyond, right? By the way, I showed it to other people. She doesn't know, but other people were like, "Oh, it's phenomenal," right? I have many conversations with Mo Hassan and with other people. So that's great. The other thing is, guess what, guys? On the weekends, the people that are next to you, you can party with those people, but at work, it's all professional. And if it goes out of line, you're screwing the dynamics at work, right? Too many happy hours, too many lunches, too many, just because then you start alienating other people, and then your relationship with the people that report to you, very respectful, very kind, very supportive, right? And then just lead by example. If you're the leader, then just act like the leader. No, don't act like the person that you're reporting to. Just, you are supposed to be more experienced. If not, you wouldn't be the leader. Okay. I think that was the last question. Great. So we're out of time. I want to share a couple of things before we leave. I'm sad to say that today is our last master class for the summer internship program. However, I have some good news for you. Number one, some of you are still working with your mentors. By the way, although the program ends July 31st, and I'm going to be speaking to your mentors before then, okay, to ensure that you guys, carried on with the conversations. And some things are not finished, like Oriana and I still need to talk to other people, but she's graduating in December, and what I want with her is to get positioned to speak to as many chief marketing officers as possible, right? So, we're going to work on that. So your works, if you became friends with your mentors, continue the relationship, right? You don't have to be working on the project anymore, but that could be a mentor for life, that you can keep bouncing ideas, and as long as there's no gray areas, that relationship will work forever. It will be yours forever. By the way, if they're mentors of Apprentice Worldwide, they're your mentors. Clearly easy. If they're not a mentor of Apprentice Worldwide, then just be careful. Those gray areas. That's why I love Apprentice Worldwide, because if they're mentors here, there's no gray area. Okay. Two things. So for those of you that want, we're gonna do a happy hour graduation. For those of you that are over 21, you can bring your favorite drink. For those of you that are under 21, you can bring your favorite drink that is non-alcoholic, or at least that doesn't look alcoholic. But we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna celebrate two things. Number one, just look at what you learn, right? 6 CEOs that are your mentors for life. Number two, I loved hanging out with you guys, right? For all of you that have been part of this program that want to continue, like Carla. Carla has been, this is the second summer internship program that she does. But she, after the internship program, she became part of Apprentice Worldwide. This is how you get introduced to your mentors. So think about it. You're going to have 100, 200 mentors around the world that are all trying to do the same thing, help you succeed, right? So what better place to be than in a place where people care about you, right? And you don't have to be alone anymore. I'm telling you, we've been doing this for, Monica forgets, it's not 7 years, it's 9 years. 9 years, okay? And we're not going anywhere because I continue to hang out with Luis and Monica, and more people get added to the family. So, you guys don't pay anything. You just come here and shed sometimes your tears. There's things you can't discuss with other people. By the way, we have life coaches, we have finance coaches. Besides mentors, we have coaches. We have like 25 coaches. Okay, so you guys know. The women in the group have a special forum that eventually not everybody joins, because I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to accomplish. But within 6 months to a year, then you join our women leaders group. And that's another forum where, Monica, maybe you want to share a little bit about that and what the women do as well. But Macy is the one that is helping me with onboarding new people at Apprentice. Okay, so if you're interested in becoming part of Apprentice Worldwide and you're not part, Macy, right there, she can tell you what we need to do. And it's very simple, by the way. It's not that complicated. It's a 3-step process. To be honest, what I look for in apprentices are people that are highly motivated, but that show that they care, that have a big heart. Okay, so if you care about people, want to hang out with people that are all trying to help you out, guess what? You're in like Flint, because that's what we've been doing for a long time. So I'm extending that invitation to all of you. So if you're interested, just reach out to Macy. Okay. For the rest of you, it doesn't matter. I still had so much fun hanging out with you. On Monday, we'll have a little celebration, and I have a surprise for you. Okay. I have a special guest. I don't want to share it, but I have a special guest for you guys. And we have some things that Paola couldn't join because she's traveling, but Paola and I have a special gift for you as well. Okay. Any questions?
Hernan, can I interrupt really quick?
2 minutes.
Okay, really fast. I want to say that how lucky I've been to work with Carla. I work with a lot of people and their children and stuff, but Carla, she has a fire in her heart and a commitment with herself. So Carla, never lose that, because that's going to take you to very high places. And I just want to say thank you for letting me work with him, Hernan.
I knew you were gonna realize this. I already knew, because Carla's a special lady. She highly motivated. By the way, everybody here is. If not, you wouldn't be here. So let me share that with you. Any last comments? Anything that you learned about the program that you want to share? Come on, you got any last minute words? This might be the last time that we see each other before the happy hour.
Well, from my part, I just want to wish everyone an excellent rest of the summer. Congratulations on completing this program. I think it's a blessing in disguise for a lot of people. We have I don't know if you remember Victor last year. He was in our program. He ended up writing a book. He wrote me recently, and he's, very happy and where the way his career is going. He has a new relationship, and so he feels that his life had, and he was we discussed it. He was an older mentee because he was already in his mid-30s, and he was just trying to change his path, he felt. And so once we brought him in here, he spoke to me last week, and he said, he attributes a lot of his changes, and even at his age, maturity, and change in the mindset, and how he presented himself in life, and how he thought and organized himself in life, to Apprentice Worldwide. So I am very happy for him that in the many other successful story, Carlos, that we've had, and everyone that comes out and continues to participate. I'm excited about all the group today that I just met for the first time, and they're all working on such exciting things. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear about the graduations. I can't wait to hear about the application and all the future projects. And I can't wait to get into Lorena's airline. Hopefully we get free tickets somewhere to Brazil. I hope, maybe. So,
Yes.
but anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for giving me this forum today and this opportunity to meet you and to be part of your lives, and wish you all the best. And I'll see you at the happy hour, though.
Yay. So we'll be at the happy hour probably around 5 on Monday for anybody that wants to join. Yes, Carla. See, mija. By the way, Carla's in the Philippines.
Can I send Arthur as my proxy to the happy hour?
Yay. I always love Arthur, especially Russian vodka.
Okay, he'll be happy to join a happy hour after work.
So we used to do virtual happy hours at Apprentice during the pandemic a lot. Virtual cigars, virtual happy hours. It was fun. I miss those. But now to go to happy hour, I gotta dress up and go somewhere instead of getting my bottle of whiskey that I had in my house. By the way, so you saw, talk about people around the world. So Sebastian is in Colombia. Macy is in Bolivia. Carla is in the Philippines. Lorena is in Brazil. We have TJ in Massachusetts. We got Marely in Puerto Rico. Sebastian, Miami, right? Oriana, Johan, who else? All the rest of you, I think you're in Miami, but you want to meet people around the world, all you have to do is, participate in our activities. Everybody's in the chat. You know that, no? Do you guys know that you already have each other's phone numbers and that all you have to do is connect with each other? So practice networking, okay? Because that's the number one thing that we do over here. We provide you with a global network of people that we trust. And that's why we vet people before becoming people from Apprentice. So once you become part of Apprentice, it means that we trust you and that our mentors will be able to trust you, okay? That's why we filter people. By the way, you want to know who's an Apprentice? What's the website, Macy?
Apprentice.cc.
Easy. Apprentice.cc.
CC. Yeah.
So that's the official directory, by the way. So if you want to see our 900 people that we have there, we're fixing it a little bit because what happens is some people, we don't have the pictures. So we have to make sure that people put their pictures. If you're already part of Apprentice Worldwide, you just go to the regular you're gonna click on the top where it says join in as a member. If you're not part of Apprentice, then you go on the navigators, and then you fill out the questionnaire in the navigators. So you'll see it, and Macy will show that info. But it's just your profile info, and then guess what? Whenever you have a question about banking, you want to talk to our lawyers, you want to talk to the doctors, you click on their profile, you click on the LinkedIn, you're going to have Apprentice Worldwide. You're going to learn, but you're going to have Apprentice Worldwide, hopefully in your LinkedIn, that you're part of Apprentice so that people can recognize you. You'll join the chats. We have chats for like everything. We have industry chats. We have country chats. We have chats just to chat. But who cares? You know, we have people in Venezuela, in Colombia. We have 30 people in Colombia. Macy is the only lonely one. We don't have that many people in Bolivia. In Brazil, we have 10 people. In Philippines, Carla's recruiting. In Miami, we have 120. And we hang out and do happy hours. When I went to Mexico last weekend, and I did a happy hour with the Mexico team. Venezuela, we have like 7 or 8 people in Venezuela, even though they don't like their president, but they still like to succeed. So we still help them out. And Puerto Rico, we have like 20, 25 people. So you guys are more than welcome. Okay, any last comment before we leave? En español, algo, un insulto, ¿no? Coño, ustedes son fáciles. All right, God bless everybody. It was a pleasure to be here with you guys, and whatever you need, you know where to reach me, okay?
Good luck to you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Happy hour.
Jordan, muchas
Bye.
gracias. Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Pleasure,
All
everyone.
right, have a good one. Bye.
Check out the academy.
Bye-bye.
Told this to you from the bottom of my heart, how awesome this is to be able to be a change in these kids' lives. Hello, hello. Rescuer. Hey, did you guys get the Wordle today? I got it on my third try. What's up, my ladies and gentlemen? Raymond, let me see your phone. Yeah, right. For some reason, I thought you were watching something on YouTube. Who are you talking to? Hernan. Hernan? Yeah, Hernan. Maybe give me the shirt.
A little bit like Hernandez.
No, a little bit.
Hernan.
Hernan is his name.
Hernan.
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 Is that your new phone?
Yeah.
It's the same, you know?